Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Start your morning right. I am John Palacio.
And I'm Marlene Cuellar, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Beautiful Wednesday morning out, huh?
Right.
We're at midweek, Marlene.
Hump day.
Hump day indeed, and we're so glad that we could be here with you this morning. As a matter of fact, we're so glad that you can be here with us this morning as well as you start your morning right. And as per usual, Marlene, you know, there's so many things that we try to look upon to get our show started. There are a few things I'd like to get to, and I feel that are very, very important throughout our country. Like everything else that we share with you throughout the newscast in the evening time right here on 5, there are a few things that, of course, for me, would stand out. And primarily a standout for me, of course, the BTL situation is a standout. Having to hear from the chairman of BTL, that's one of them. Also, utmost standout for me, Marlene, is the fact that our children are being taken advantage of. And you know how deep it is for me when it comes to dealing with our children, primarily, and I've been taught by you, having conversations that our children primarily are not our property. We're a conduit for them. They're a part of us. We're a conduit for them to move on in life. And one of the things that we do as parents or as guardians is that we tell them that there are people within the household or within the family that we should trust. And more so, are we supposed to? I think what we're supposed to do is to actually do a scan, feel what somebody feels like before we could actually leave them with our children. One of the things I've learned from you again, Marlene, is that not because that person is your relative, you should force your child to sit on the lap or give a hug because their ulterior motive. 3 within 72 hours. Reported. That is alarming, and for that reason I said, you know what, that's where I'd like to start, because that is of utmost importance. These children are our future, Marlene.
Yeah, and you know, yesterday's report with CEO Santos from Human Development, I think, you know, she really brought out some really important points. We know that there is a much bigger problem with the abuse of children in this country than the reports can ever be able to convey. You know, those children who are in a family where they're comfortable enough to disclose to family members that something is taking place, those families who are in a position or feel empowered enough to go ahead and report it. You know, that's all the different layers that children have to pass through to even get to the point where we know as the public that something is taking place. So I say that to say reported because, you know, sure enough, it's far more wide-reaching in many more households than you would expect. But one of the things I think that the CEO noted was that you have to establish that relationship with your child. You have to ensure that they know, one, that they can be comfortable enough to tell you about it, and two, that most often abuse happens from people that the child knows. It's so, you know, you have kids, they won't go to strangers as easily as they portray it in the movies, where they are the predators in most cases. Majority of the times it's someone within the family, a close family relative even, or a friend of a relative, or a friend of the family. And even in unfortunate cases, the immediate family members. So I think I'm happy to hear them speak out on the issue, and it is one that, you know, can never be given enough attention. It's just that it's one of those things where we work so hard to protect the children that it makes it hard to really publicize the issues.
2 persons have been detained so far. 3 incidents, 2 persons detained. They're looking for 1 more. I can't recall the name of the individual that they're looking for. But you know, we must understand the importance of this. And of course, hearing that law enforcement folks are actually, or a person of law enforcement is actually one of the perpetrators who have been carrying out such thing. Tutoring, you know, Marlene, at this particular point, it's tough to not try to provide some sort of, I don't want to say relief, I'd like to say help for your child with respect to schools. We know that schools will be reopening, but from a Zoom standpoint, meaning that, you know, these kids won't go back into school. They'll be given their handouts. They'll be taking care of that. But as a parent, Marlene, it is tough sometimes. You look at that work and then you wonder, Ali Rusty, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to do this? Then you go and you Google. But there are people who actually know the work, and then you trust them. You entrust them because they come across as tutors, and then they might just be the predator. So we're in a tough situation with this, Marlene.
And we do have to say, this is something that organizations that advocate for children have been saying for quite some time, that this is why it's even more important. There are many reasons our children need to be back in school, but one of it is also that children sometimes are unsupervised. They're being left with people they don't normally stay with. Children who are already in abusive households are suffering even more abuse because they're home and in that situation all day over a year. And it really is just such a deeply infuriating situation to imagine any child having to live through conditions like that. So it is an unfortunate situation, and as I said, it is always just the tip of the iceberg that we see. There's so much more happening in households, but it does remind us one thing, that we have a responsibility to report it. Even suspicions that something is taking place, you should report it. Because children are children, and they don't necessarily, they haven't always been given the voice that we should allow them to have to say something is happening to them. So we as adults can always step in and make an anonymous report or call the police and say, I think something is happening there.
Exactly what.
And save that child from these horrors.
Exactly what CEO Santos made mention of, that they've got their voices. These children, they're so young, they're so innocent. And when we show them things, they'll eventually want to abide by it because we're their parents. But are we doing the right thing? If you see something, if you see something or know anything about it, then please report it. Even if the individual or these people consider to be close to you, think about the future of that child and what that child will be going through eventually as they grow up. Let's do the right thing here, please. Speaking of doing the right thing, Marlene, another one of the news stories that I feel is of utmost importance, and it actually proves a point, is the situation with our dear brother, Dr. Cuellar, who contracted the coronavirus. And it was a scare, especially seeing what happened, what was on social media in terms of him being hospitalized and being on oxygen, you know, receiving oxygen. That was a scary thing for me, being one of his friends. And I feel more closer to him just by seeing him on the TV. Hearing his voice yesterday was a sigh of relief. Why? Because we know how close Dr. Cuellar is with us. We know how he's family here as well. And so therefore to hear his voice. But one of the things that stand out for me, Marlene, is that as much as he's diabetic, you know, is the fact that he mentioned that he took that coronavirus vaccine, and that's one of the big reasons why that he is able to speak to us today. So this is actually a proven point. That if you take the vaccine, your chances of surviving from the coronavirus is stronger than those who don't want to take it. That's a strong point.
And we mustn't miss the opportunity to say that, of course, the majority of hospitalized cases are for people who are unvaccinated. There's a very small percentage of people who will have breakthrough infections that lead to hospitalization. Unfortunately, Dr. Cuellar is one of those people. I appreciate, you know, one of the things that we must put into context as well is the level of exposure that he has being a frontline health worker. And it's part of the reason why, in fact, healthcare workers were the first group of people to be vaccinated, because naturally you're around sick people every single day. That's what people go to the clinic or hospital for, because they don't feel well. So because of their level of exposure, they definitely were the first on the list of people to be vaccinated. But of course, you know, Dr. Cuellar is my family, and the news was very unsettling for me.
Me too.
And you know, I've been checking in as much as possible.
Yeah.
And as I'm sure all of Belize has, because everybody kind of just took that
Yes.
that deep sigh of concern when we heard the news. And thankfully, you know, he has such a great team that's working with him as well. All his colleagues have stepped forward to assist him. But the fact that he has provided a public update doesn't surprise me, because here's the thing. He's been advocating for ensuring that people get enough information and people understand what is happening. And I think that being able to kind of share just how how much progress has been made in such a short time, really validating the fact that being vaccinated is an extra level of protection that you don't know you need until you're in that hospital bed. And so, and I think, you know, whether you're a gambling person or whether you're just somebody who assesses your risks properly, do you want to be hospitalized and then realize, if I had a vaccination, I could be doing much better, versus ending up in the hospital and wishing you had gotten it.
And there are reports of people who are actually in the hospital saying that, Doc, I'm able to get the vaccine right now because I'm not feeling well. This coronavirus is actually taking over my body. So therefore, you know, it speaks volumes that, you know what, we've got the vaccine, and your opportunity to get it is right now. The Pfizer vaccine is out.
Yeah, for children.
And for children from 12 years old to 17 years old. And this is your opportunity, as the Ministry of Health and Wellness is actually holding clinics throughout the country.
Yeah, and I do hope people take advantage of the opportunity. My nephew got his first shot this week. That made me so happy just to see it, you know, seeing that picture of him with his vaccination card. Because we all worry about our loved ones. We all worry about ourselves, but we worry about our loved ones as well. And so, and we want them to get back to school. We want them to be in a safer environment. So I think what we have been seeing so far with the reports from vaccinations of children, it looks positive. So I'm happy to hear that. I know there are a lot of parents. We found out on Monday's show in Get the Facts, there are a lot of parents who still have questions. And I think that's great. And I do hope that they are able to access healthcare professionals who can help to give them the right advice as to what to do if their child has a medical condition already, so that they can adequately assess the risks. But it is very encouraging to see that. And we do expect that the country should be getting a shipment of Johnson & Johnson vaccines very soon. They said by the end of August. That's one shot and done. One shot and done, and then you wait, well, of course, the weeks for it to be considered effective. But you know, John, it really goes back to when we look at the numbers from yesterday, over 100 cases detected.
121, actually.
50, almost half of that is in Belize City alone. And I think that one of the things we have been discussing, and I've been discussing with friends, family, and even co-workers, is that we have to initiate our own personal plan. And our own personal plan includes minimizing exposure. You know, you get reports every single day of somebody you know now who tests positive or has a family member who tests positive. I know I'm seeing that. So I think that we all have to take responsibility for ourselves. We don't need a shutdown. We don't need a lockdown. We don't need to have the rigid laws in place. If we're interested in protecting ourselves, protecting the people we interact with, and their loved ones at home, we'll start to reduce our exposure so that we don't continue to spread the virus.
Indeed, 127 new cases detected yesterday, 93 recoveries. Yes, we've got the details up. 93 recoveries. Of note, though, under investigation, and this for me is like one of the scary things, whereby we've got 473 people under investigations. There are 3 persons in the ICU, active hospitalizations at 13, and 2 new deaths, Marlene. Two families are actually grieving because they've lost loved ones over the course of 24 hours.
You know, I've heard stories of people who are unvaccinated and in the hospital who are just terrorized at the idea of seeing people pass away right next to them, dying in isolation. And it's definitely, as every doctor who has been working in COVID wards has told us, it is such a terrible way to die. Imagine not having your loved ones come visit. Imagine, going on a ventilator and never coming off of it.
Never coming off.
So this is not something to be taken lightly. It
Yeah.
is clear that we are in a very critical state when it comes to this COVID spread. We're not unlike the rest of the world, so we have to do our part to reduce exposure. And yesterday we had the Chamber of Commerce, they were talking about the impact on business. I think all businesses have been trying to implement once again the best measures that they can to keep their employees safe,
Yeah.
and of course to ensure that they can keep on providing their business or service.
Indeed. So that was a great conversation, actually. I checked it out, but there's so many things to try and decipher, especially with respect to the lifestyle or the situation, the economical situation that we are in as we speak, Marlene. I tell you, it's tough to every day having to wake up or preparing for the newscast in the evening time, saying that, you know what, I got my tea, but I need to watch the news while I'm having my tea. And then you hear these stories on there. So those are just a few.
But there was one more story I did want to bring up this morning. The story of Kyron Green. Kyron, of course, was unfortunately a victim of a shooting. That has left him paralyzed, and his family reached out to the media to try to get some attention.
Yeah.
And man, the most charming smile I have seen in such a long time. He looks like he has such a pleasant disposition. He was a victim in this unfortunate warfare that we see taking place in the city. And it's an important follow-up, because sometimes we hear of a shooting and someone being injured and we know they survived, so we're like, okay, well, there was no murder. But there may be no murder. Someone may not have lost their life, but this is the consequence that many shooting victims actually face afterwards. And so his family is working with the World Pediatric Project to be able to follow up with care at Shriners Hospital. And World Pediatric Project, in addition, in conjunction with Shriners Hospital, does offer the care for free, but with the new COVID realities, there are additional expenses that the family must bear, and it's about $5,000 that they need to raise to be able to ensure that they can get to the hospital, they can pay for the hotel and the quarantine period there, the testing that is required to travel, the visas as well. So they are asking the community. I know things are tight right now. It's hard to be able to imagine giving extra, but there may be something that you can spare, and trust me, a little bit goes a long way. That's 5,000 people giving a dollar. That's 1,000 people giving $5. So if you can be able to help out this family so that Kyron can be able to return to Shriners so he can get the care he needs, please do. We have the contact information on our website, so you can check him out. But look at that smile.
That's a smile of strength right there. That's a smile of bravery. That's who he is. Clearly you could see that. Clearly you could see this, a phenomenal support from his family as well. But what they need is phenomenal country support so that he could be helped out and he could make his way to the U.S. and then eventually try to get the much needed care that the family needs. And excellent story there, excellent story there. But let's continue to be our brother's keeper. Let's continue to have each other back, like we would normally say. And this is definitely one of those times we need to do so.
All right, but we're going to get moving into our show for today. And that means let's get some motivation going for this morning. And our eye-opener goes like this. If you feel abandoned or cut off from spirit, know that it is always there for you, waiting for you to plug back in. There may be times when we feel like our connection to the universe is closed. Maybe things don't seem to be going well in our day or our lives, or we may feel out of our element. The truth is, the universe is always there for us. It is up to us to do the work of making the connection, because nobody can do it for us, though sometimes the universe may send us wake-up calls. It is just as easy to reconnect with the universe. Using the same technique as a breath of fresh air, a deep breath can bring us back to our center. As we inhale, we fill our bodies with the oxygen needed to replenish our most basic physical needs, allowing the air to circulate within us. Exhaling, we release the stale, the used, the potentially toxic air, removing any blocks that may keep us from going deeper into the stillness that lies at our center where we connect to the universe. When we make that connection in our minds, it can help bring us back to the connection we seek.
Indeed, it can help bring us back to the connection that we seek. I go with it, Marlene. I really and truly like the eye opener because indeed, when you take that deep breath in and then you exhale to just take out what we would refer to as that stale air, it's a replenishment of the mind. And I'll top it off with saying a prayer always works. Same, and Catalina Reyes and PG always say, if that's how you feel at this particular point, that you're disconnected from the universe, you take your breath and at the same time, you say your prayer. And it replenishes the mind because it feels like it has been washed by just by knowing that you've made that connection with the higher, what you refer to as that higher being or that higher spirit, because you actually get a clearer path now.
Yeah.
You've got a clear mind, chances are you're going to see exactly what you need to try and replenish from what we refer to as stale or lack of connection with the universe. I love the eye opener. Love it, love it.
That's right. It's a great one. You know, I always say it, you just cannot underestimate the power of your breath.
Indeed.
We take it for granted. And we've had so many people talk about meditation, yoga, mindfulness.
Yeah.
We've done breath work on
Yeah,
this
we've
show,
done, we've done.
And it makes a tremendous difference. And, you know, I always pay attention now how we just instinctively try to access that deep breath in moments where we know we need it. You know, you're going to walk into something intimidating or challenging or tackle something, you go, let's do it, right?
God,
You're doing
already,
it.
yes.
So we just force the habit when it's absolutely essential.
Indeed.
All right.
What a great eye-opener there. But it is that time of the morning whereby we take a look at the weather to let you know exactly what to expect for the remainder of your day. And we've got those folks on.
No, we're going to go ahead and just read our prepared forecast for today.
All right.
All right. And so, our general situation for today is for relatively dry conditions to prevail.
All right, and in our 24-hour forecast, mostly sunny today with only isolated showers and the chance of an afternoon thunderstorm inland. Partly cloudy tonight, though, with isolated showers or thunderstorms mainly over the south.
All right, there still is a flood warning in effect for southern Stank Creek and Toledo.
We've seen that, we've seen that. The winds, though, from the east to northeast at 5 to 15 knots, and that will be producing choppy seas.
All right, our high temperatures for today are going to be 87 along the coast, 92 inland, and 84 in the hills.
For later on tonight, temperatures falling as low as 79 degrees Fahrenheit coastal, 72 inland, and a cool 66 degrees Fahrenheit up in the hills.
All right, our extended forecast for Thursday and Thursday night is for generally fair with isolated showers and isolated thunderstorms developing.
Catherine Cumberbatch, thank you for providing us with that weather update. And so we move on. Now we know exactly what to expect throughout the day and for the next 24 hours with the weather. We move on to let you know that we've got a packed show lined up for you. 3 wonderful topics to talk about here. In the first one, now this one definitely you want to pay close attention to. It is how to identify domestic violence and when to seek help. That's our first segment.
All right, the second part of our show, well, September is coming around, and once upon a time, before 2020, we once used to enjoy steel pan music as a part of our September celebrations. Feels like such a distant memory, doesn't it? Well, we're going to have Alex Evans, a musician, coming in, and he's actually going to be presenting at the Culture Symposium later on this month, and his presentation is on the history of steel pan in Belize. It's really interesting, and so he's going to tell us a bit about that in the second part of the show.
So what do you know? You learn about steel pan, and then in the third segment, we teach you how to make some donuts. So we've got Dot Box Donuts. It'll be giving us a sneak peek in how to prepare some delicious. Don't I love donuts, you know?
You do.
Oh my goodness,
Do you know how to make them?
I don't know how to make them. That's the only thing. But I love donuts, and I could at least grab 1 or 3 throughout the week.
I love that honesty. All right.
So
it's a good thing you're a runner.
yes. So we'll be having those folks in. Actually, the owner will be in with us this morning for the final segment to tell us exactly how to prepare them.
All right. And we got to take that break. But before we do, we got a birthday shout out.
Oh, yes.
And we are saying happy birthday to
Bria Alana Avila. Happy birthday to you, Bree. Here you go. 16 years old.
Oh.
Here's wishing you all the very best. I remember when I was 16,
Happy
like
sweet
3 times
16,
over. Yes.
yeah.
Happy sweet 16 to you from the entire family with lots and lots of love. And of course, from us right here at Channel 5 and right here on Open Your Eyes. So we're about to take the break. When we come back, we'll dive directly into our first segment. Stay with us.
It's a fact that with Smart, you get truly unlimited everything. Only with Smart, you get unlimited data anytime. While with the other guy, it's only double data on weekends. With unlimited data every day with Smart, there's no need to wait. So, it's a fact that our unlimited plans beat the competition. Stop being measured and told when to use your data and get unlimited talk, text, and data. Experience the true unlimited plans with Smart. That's a fact. Make the switch and live smart.
Good morning, sweetie. It's time for school.
Are you a teacher or public sector employee who is thinking of owning your new home? Get the keys to your new home with Belize Bank's all-inclusive mortgage, the best financing option in Belize for your new home purchase or construction. Inclusive of all mortgage-related fees, no down payment, affordable terms, amazingly low interest rates. Visit our nearest branch to speak to one of our financial advisors to discuss how you can be one step closer to owning your new home. Some conditions apply.
At Belize Diagnostic Center, we offer FDA-approved PCR testing for COVID-19. Get your results as quickly as 1 hour. Don't risk getting exposed to COVID-19 by going elsewhere. We take appointments, or we can come to your home or office using our concierge service with no additional fees. We have 10 locations countrywide. Call or WhatsApp us at 613-TEST. That is 613-8378 to schedule your test today.
Whether it's back to the classroom or back on the tablets, the new school year is almost here. We know you missed seeing the children take center stage in 2020, but now Summerfest is back, pandemic style. Join us on August 27th for a virtual celebration of our talented Belizean children. We'll bring you all the family fun and entertainment right in the comfort of your home. Don't worry, we'll still have fantastic giveaways throughout the live show. All you have to do is follow us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ. Our annual Kids Talent Show starts at 6:30 a.m. live on 5 and streamed on Facebook and YouTube. Start your school year right with Summerfest 2021.
Whether you're at home, on the road, at work, or at school, if you see news happening or suspect that something might be up, call or text the Channel 5 News Belize tip line at 672-5555. You don't have to give us your name, just give us the tip. That's 672-5555. Call or text us so we can check it out.
And we'll be back in a few, so stay tuned. Thanks, Jen. Hey there, we know you have to head out to work shortly, but don't forget that you can stay tuned by watching us on our Facebook live stream. Find us at Open Your Eyes BC, and you can continue watching there. You can also download Facebook Watch on your streaming device, and you can watch at your own convenience.
And for all the behind the scenes fun, follow us on Instagram at OYE Belize. So,
Find us
and follow us
today.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate your lives and memories with Channel 5's Daily Obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
Great Belize Productions Channel 5, proud winner of 5 Caribbean Media Awards for 2019 and 2020. Best Television News Item, Best Responsible Coverage of Children's Issues, Best Health Education Journalism, Best Television Commercial Spot, and the People's Choice Award, with special mention by the jury in the Best Television News Item category.
Today's COVID update is brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price but stay for the service.
And welcome back to Open Your Eyes. We're moving now into our first segment for the morning. And this one is all about how to identify domestic violence and when to seek help. Now we've got the professionals in to tell us all about it. Cynthia Williams, she is the Executive Director of the National Women's Commission, and also Ms. Thea Garcia Ramirez. I hope I got that correctly. Yes, ma'am. She's the President of the National Women's Commission. Ladies, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having us once again.
Good morning.
Reading the topic yesterday, I said, especially me being how I am, and Marlene would know, dear to me, Cynthia, you would know as well, in terms of how we deal with our loved ones, and I'm speaking from a male's perspective with respect to how we're supposed to treat, with respect to how we're supposed to love our women, because it's never the woman behind. It's always one next to the other, because that's how we need each other. Let's talk, put into perspective, domestic violence. I'd like for us to do a breakdown of that. Many of us men can't fathom what domestic violence is. We can't seek it. We don't know that we're doing it. And that's where I would like for people to understand. Primarily, what is domestic violence?
When we look at the issue of domestic violence, really any type of violence perpetrated on another individual, whether it's physical, emotional, psychological, and even financial. It's really a direct consequence of gender inequality and how we view persons who we feel are inferior to us. In most cases, or disproportionately, we do see in the data that it affects women more and more, but it doesn't mean that it only affects women. We do find men experience it as well, children experience. So it's really an issue that affects the entire family. And so it's very critical for us to be able to recognize it, to understand what it is. And part of the issue why it's so difficult is because we've normalized it so much. You know, we have been seeing this type of behavior for many years. I mean, from our grandfathers, great-grandfathers, that has been ongoing since we don't even know, but for many generations. And so we feel that whenever there's specific actions and behaviors, it's okay because everybody else did it. And so it has been accepted by society. And it definitely has a direct correlation, as said, to gender inequality, because a lot of times it's based on the issue of power and control. And they view who, mostly women, are in the subservient position to men. And in most cases, for men to retain power and control, then they use violence, which within the confines of a relationship within a household, then we qualify that as domestic violence. In some spaces, it is also called intimate partner violence because it's only qualified within intimate partners, whether it's the current one, past, partner of the individual. In Belize, however, we've expanded the definition because we included that violence within the family, within the household. So it also includes violence that is perpetrated within siblings and parents as well. And that is the key difference in terms of Belize, trying to really provide that sort of protection for those households, because we know domestic violence is not only within intimate partners, but also within the household. And it's only one of the forms of gender-based violence because it stems out from the gender inequality and violence that is perpetrated against a person because of who they see themselves.
Can gender-based violence occur, or does it occur only from men to women, or men instilling violence against women?
It's vice versa. When we look at different forms of gender-based violence, sexual harassment, which is a form of sexual violence as well, sexual violence against children, human trafficking, femicide, most usually or disproportionately, women are the victims because men hold the power and control. However, men do experience some forms of violence as well. And one of the other things that affects them being able to recognize it and even be able to access the services, again, it goes back to the issue of how we're socialized. And what is the perception of how men should be and how they should act that deters them from seeking the type of support. And for women as well, in terms of how we socialize our children and the messages that we tell them, that definitely affects how well they will be able to recognize it themselves and access the type of services that they require and support.
Now, you know, the pandemic has been a challenge in itself, but we have seen globally and even here in Belize where it has only compounded the problem of violence within the households. And that especially is the case whether it's between partners or between adults and children. What's the data that we're looking at today?
In 2020, when we started the lockdown, we saw an increase in terms of April to June, where the numbers escalated, and then it started to fluctuate. There has been a decrease in terms of the reported cases for this year up to June when we look at the data. But one of the things that what we're looking at is that the way that we collect data also affects the way that we see it. In terms of, there's two different ways of reports. So one where they're formally making reports and pressing charges or seeking a court action. And there's the other aspect of it where they just want to file that for future reference. When you combine those two, then you do continue to see cases over 2,000 reports being made. But when we only use the one where police are investigating or there's any type of court action, then we see between 800 to 1,000 cases per year. But definitely what we often speak about is the fact that while there may not be reports or there's not an increase that is observed, or there's a decrease, it doesn't really speak about the real numbers, because as a country we haven't really done a national prevalence study that really gets to every single household. And because it's such a delicate topic, very uncomfortable for many still, people will still not be honest. For shame, for whatever reason, they will not be honest and say, this is what I'm happening. And some people still don't recognize it. When there's no physical abuse, then they feel that they're not in a domestic violence. But like we said, it includes the emotional component, financial component, and sexual component as well, because that is also another issue that we're finding.
We have anecdotal data to go off when we see these major incidences take place, and then everybody said, and then there's no record that says that there was abuse being reported within the household, but yet you see something as horrendous as we saw this weekend take place. I want to get hear from the president of the commission now, just looking at the collaboration that is necessary. There's so many different agencies and organizations involved in trying to improve the situation. Tell me about it from your point of view.
Well, coming into the commission a few months ago, you're right, there's many different stakeholders and partners dealing with domestic violence, and we still, I believe, need more. We need more partners, we need more people involved, we need to keep the conversation going, and I'm thanking you both for having us here this morning, because we can't speak about it enough. It needs to stay we need to stay on topic and keep the conversation going, because just as Cynthia was saying, certain behaviors are normalized now. They're ingrained in our traditions, in our beliefs, in our culture even. We also need to ingrain in our culture a culture that says it's not okay to beat on women. It's not okay to abuse women verbally, to call them out when they're walking on the streets, to say to little girls in school uniforms, oh hey, you know, by big grown men. Those are forms of violence. We may not think they are, because you're not touching anybody, you're not hitting anybody, but they are. When we as mothers, and I'm speaking as a mother myself, say, okay, I'll teach my daughter to cook, but the boys need to be sitting and they will wait to be served. That's where we start. That's where we start these toxic, misogynistic behaviors and attitudes that do not bode well for the women in our society. And so we need to keep on topic. We need to make sure that we continuously speak about it and speak out about it. And there's many services that we have that are offered, and many women, especially because we are talking about domestic violence in terms of women, can access, and there is help out there. We may not have all the help that other countries can provide, but there are still places you can go to for help. There are still places that will reach out and give you a room for a few nights. We can access help through the police, and more in keeping the conversations alive. People take conscious. I mean, we have all been guilty of unconscious bias. The mother-in-law that says, oh well, my daughter-in-law, she no like cook and she no serve my son. That's an unconscious bias. That's traditionally because those are roles that we are taught that the women must have certain roles in the family and the men are excluded from certain roles. And so even, you know, when you're talking about it, there's a lot of unconscious bias that feeds into these toxic behaviors, like I said.
And even as we see more women take a place in society in leadership roles, these are still practices expected of them at home. We see this with the pandemic. They work from home, but they care for the children. They also have to prepare the meals. So it's also still being able to unlearn the patriarchal upbringing that we've all seen and our parents have seen. But let's go back to one of the issues, because I think it's core to, there's so many different layers, from how we raise our children all the way to emergency situations where people need to get out to save their lives. But the services as to what's available will always be a concern. And I think you mentioned it, resources are important. Have we looked at collaborating with private sector? Maybe there are hotels that would say, okay, I will designate these rooms that if somebody needs to get out of an emergency situation, you can come here and wait it out. Because if I am tied to a person financially and my children need to be cared for and I don't know where I'm going to go or how I'm going to get out of it, it's hard for people to make that step.
Definitely, and I would like to piggyback on what Ms. Thea said in terms of we all have been guilty, because I think one of the things that we all must recognize is the role that each of us can play, where within the media, within church, within the private sector as well. We utilize those type of services, however, government still pays for them in cases of emergency where we have to provide that type of safe space for a person in terms of the work that the Women and Family Support Department does. But one of the things that the National Women's Commission is working on is we designed last year what we call the Gender Equality Seal that seeks to actively engage more, because we've done it, it's not, and we definitely know we have to do much more work, but you know, so we through that design of the Gender Equality Seal, it's seeking to engage private sector more actively and have them not only be able to recognize what they can do in terms of supporting the efforts and maybe even reduced or no cost in some spaces, but also internally being able to recognize their spaces and environment and how they are also contributing to these type of situations where we're perpetrating misogynistic and patriarchal attitudes, where unknowingly we are providing or providing more importance, giving more importance to certain roles, because these roles in the past have been much more traditionally engaged by men, and the one when look at engaged by women, they're not seen or thought of as important or are seen lesser. And so through that seal, which we developed last year, it is actually an initiative that was developed by UNFPA, and so we brought it to Belize and look at how can it help us, how can we utilize it to engage the private sector, have them maybe have a focal point within their businesses where they also know what services are available, and they themselves can do that referral within their business establishments, because we recognize that while many people still at this day and age don't know that there is a Women and Family Support Department, and you know, for whatever reason, sometimes they only have one officer in a district, so there are constraints. So if we're able to expand the outreach, if we're able to expand the awareness of what the services are, no matter how little, then I think we'll be able to work better, because then sometimes people just need to have that information to understand and recognize the situation that they're in and seek help. You know, and so it's important. So through that Gender Equality Seal, we hope to be able to do work not only with the private sector, but also within the Ministry of Public Service that looks at the training of public officers, because that is another issue in terms of services provision, but effective or quality standard in terms of when people are coming, whether it's men, whether it's anyone accessing services, they are provided in the utmost, most respectful and remain ensuring that their human dignity is at all times ensured. So that is some of the work that we're hoping to do through that seal. And so we definitely are going to be working closely with the Belize Chamber of Commerce, who has committed to see how they can support this initiative that the National Women's Commission.
Important to note, you're right in terms of mentioning when it's time to make that report, because I must trust the system, especially with my information, for me to go out to make that report, because I don't want to be looked at in a different light. President Thea, you did mention though, with respect to how things are in the household, I believe that if we're going to get anything at a lesser, then we must start from a generation. That's how I feel. One of the things about us men is that, or people on a whole, because we've still got women out there, and I could clearly point out a situation in the news whereby the lady mentioned that she needed some man strength to do something. When for me, why man strength? You've got strength to do it, then you are able to do it as well. President Thea, from the National Women's Commission, what's going on in terms of trying to quell the situation in homes so families could know that there is no such thing within a household as man job and woman job? we can do it. It's togetherness is what we're supposed to preach. And then we found, or we push that down to the children. What's the Women's Commission doing?
With Cynthia and other members of the commission, we've tried to keep establishing visits, especially like these, especially to media houses, where we keep the conversation going. I don't think that this is a task of this proportion is not going to be done by this commission in this generation this year. It is something that will take, as you have rightly mentioned, an entire generation probably for us to get past it. I mean, if you look at whenever there's on the news that there's been a rape or domestic violence of some kind reported, you can look at the feed and the comments in the comment section.
The judgment.
Exactly. And a lot of times it comes from our own women.
Yeah.
And so the victim gets re-victimized all over again. They get dragged through social media. They get dragged, and that becomes a great deterrent for anybody wanting to get out of a situation, wanting to report. I mean, you get people. I think the statistics is between 5 to 8 times that a woman will leave, come back before they finally leave. And some people, for some women, they don't make it. They don't make it to that 5th time or that 6th time or that 7th time because they die. They die within the situation. And so we have to take a step back and we have to stop the judgment. When that front door closes, nobody knows what you go through at the end of the day within your household. And so, because I don't know what you're going through, I should not judge. We're here to help. We have also worked on a pathway for securing services, and I think we've sent over some of the information that in every single district there's specific frontline workers, as we like to call them, that are going to channel you through depending on the services that you need, depending on the urgency, because maybe when you come in at that point, the medical services are what are most urgent, and so they will channel you through there and then give you all the other services that you need when you need them, if you want them. Because there's also the very great problem is that there are services that are offered, but you may not require them or you may not want them at that time. You are not ready for them. So when we think about that, it takes a woman between 5 to 8 times of leaving and coming back and leaving
like
and
they
coming
actually leave,
and then they come back. And you have to be patient. Just because you are ready for that person to leave does not mean that that person is ready to leave. And you have to be mindful and respectful of that at all times. And if you say, okay, well, we have the court, you can report and you can press charges. That person that has just been violated and in so many ways and has been the victim of domestic violence might not have the presence of mind to make a decision just then. Might not be ready emotionally to deal with a whole court situation, especially because they know that they're going to be putting themselves out there and they're going to be embarrassed, that they're going to be laughed at and discriminated, and they're going to be re-victimized all over again. And every time they tell their story, it brings it up for them and they're re-victimized in a way. And so you have to be mindful that while you might be ready for your friend to leave her husband, your friend might not be ready to do all that. And you have to be respectful. And you know, we are called to, like I always tell Cynthia, to love our neighbor as ourselves. We're not called to understand. We are called to support. We're called to hold their hand and be there. And that's all. Sometimes that's the most important thing you can do. And so within the pathway, we have people that will offer you and tell you what's available, but it's still the victim's choice what services they want to access, and we cannot push down and convince them to do otherwise. But it is important that they know that there are a range of services, like we said, within the constraints that we have, there are services that are available. And it's interesting that you were saying that within the pandemic that even women working from home are again burdened by all the household chores. I'd like to remind you that it is even more so for young girls, school-age girls, that, the packets come, but she don't have time for the packets right now because she have to help them sweep and them cook and them So they're again disadvantaged disproportionately in relation to boys, because they're expected also, because they're at home, to help with all the cooking and the cleaning. And if the mother then has to step out for work, then all the household chores invariably falls on the young girls that are school-age girls. And so where's the time for studying?
Wow.
Where's the time for doing homework?
I'm so glad you touched on that. We haven't even scratched the surface of parenticized children in this country. And I see, a 12-year-old carrying a couple-month-old baby and bringing a toddler along because that's their responsibility and what that does to them. But one of the things, there are so many challenges in being able to really dig down and try to ensure that we can provide a safer space for women in the wider community. But I love that you talked about the community support, because it makes a difference. If I watch a news story and I see the comments where people judge the victim, if I am in that situation, that is a deterrent for me to ever come out and say it's happening to me too. And it starts with some of the simple behaviors, as you noted before. Street harassment, sexual harassment. These are things that people are so dismissive about. There's a young lady in Placencia who's so brave, she speaks out publicly about street harassment. And I hear and I see where people say, oh, they're being too sensitive, that's our culture, what's a whistle?
It's a joke.
It's a compliment. You should be want to call baby or beautiful or darling. No, I didn't invite that. And it's my body and you're not in a position to be able to comment on it. But so we have these little underlying behaviors that we tolerate, and then when it reaches to the point of where someone's life is at risk or they lose their life, then we suddenly see the behavior is wrong. And so how do we address this community education that has to take place?
And currently, and like you said, definitely it's complex. And the National Women's Commission, in partnership with other partners, when we talk about the Ministry of Health, Human Development, Ministry of Education, civil society as well. Right now we're going through the process of revising the National Gender Policy and the National Gender-Based Violence Action Plan. We actually have a draft, and at the moment we're going through validation sessions through our partners. So we've met with our ministry, we've also met with Ministry of Health, with some areas of Ministry of Health, civil society as well. We had a very good discussion. And what these documents provide is an opportunity for us to give an overarching guidance, while the Commission is the lead in coordination and leading the efforts. At the end of the day is the responsibility of everyone, the different ministries. In addition, I think one of the things that we also need in how we will be able to deal with what you're talking about is beginning to recognize that this is no longer a private issue. This is everybody's issue. It bogs down in the use of public resources. When we look at increased use of health, increased use of policing resources, education, because then we're providing education services, and children cannot learn under those circumstances. Parents can't parent under those circumstances. And so it has to be a multi-sectoral approach and response. We've tried to do that, and trying to engage as many partners, and in coordination is one of the most difficult aspects of the work. But one of the things that we've also tried to do through the Spotlight project that they developed as a component, an added component to the gender-based violence referral pathway, is what we call the gender-based violence constant companion, which is a very simple one-page document, and we included the images in there for community leaders. And so this is information that community leaders have at their fingertips that guide them at what are the things that they need to do versus what are the things that they shouldn't do in terms of judgment, in terms of ensuring they say, well, you need to report this or you need to do this. No. And it provides also the pathway in which they can guide that person within their communities. And that is a tool that we're promoting as well, and ensuring that we're sharing it with community leaders in the communities so that people know. The other aspect that we're also working on with support from the UNICEF as well in partnership with the Women and Family Support Department is the establishment of gender advocates in communities. So these are identifying persons who are willing to volunteer their time, who are able to then be able to support persons if they may want to go to court or if they want to make a police report and they don't know what to do. These persons in these communities would hopefully then be able to provide that support to those persons at the community level, because we recognize that human resources is a difficult. It continues to be a challenge.
So how do you, because I think that's one of the best road to go, because as long as you've got people who can support others, especially in dealing with these things, it is an A+. So if I would like to be one of those support, what can I do? Where do I go?
Well, they can contact the National Women's Commission, and then there's a brief application just for us to be able to know, and for the person to also to understand what is their responsibility, because it's a serious responsibility, and that's why we're very, very careful in terms of saying you have to want to do this as well, because then there's no financial compensation in the process. But we would provide the training, we would ensure that they have the support and guidance as they go through the role of being a gender advocate within the communities. So we're starting very small in terms of having 20 persons around the country, and hopefully as we go in time we can also have more people. And at the end is recognizing that the more information people have, like what Ms. Thea mentioned, the more people will be able to make decisions, inform decisions. And so that's why we want to be able to work within the private sector to ensure that they also have that similar setup within their business establishments. We also want to be able to do it with faith-based, and being able to, they also recognize what are the messages that they often also give that perpetuate this type of notions in terms of women and men and how separated we are, and the roles that we all play. At the end of the day, we definitely need to come together at it, because that's the only way that we can make advancements.
There's also the round table for young girls, where the National Women's Commission sponsors in partnerships with different agencies. For example, we're trying to engage the cabs through the local government and the town councils, and engage young girls 12 to 17 in discussions that center around domestic violence and violence against women and girls, and try to get them involved and discussing, sort of like to reset that attitude that we have, and those norms that we have constructed, as with gender roles, as with gender violence,
and building that level of respect within relationships. Now, every time we have this conversation, I think to myself, how can we maximize the opportunity to talk to people at home? And I realized that there's so many different layers. I mean, we could talk about what happens to perpetrators. We can talk about what girls are learning at home, what's happening in school. But let's, for today, look at the issue of people right now who are watching who are in that situation. People who are saying, okay, I have all these reasons why I should leave, but I still can't be able to do it. What are the steps that are necessary? Who can I call? Where can I go? What's going to happen to me and my child? Let's get into people who need to break the cycle before it's too late.
Right. Well, definitely looking at the services, we know that we have ministries of human development in every district, and they are the duty bearers in terms of providing some of the response relating to issues within the family. We also have multiple civil societies in different districts, and while they may have different focus, some may deal more with children, some may deal more with women, others will deal, at the end of the day, we're trying to ensure that those civil society also know that there are safe spaces that people can go to. We do have 3 shelters in the country that people can use, they can go to. We also have... where
you don't have to pay anything.
You don't have to pay anything once you make that call, you can access that even when you go to police stations, requesting that type of shelter. The police liaises with the women's department. Even when you go to the clinics, they would have to liaise with the women's department as well. So it's not like you have to actively go there. You can contact the women's department in the districts as well. So it's not like you have to visit. And they try to find a way of how to ensure that then you are remove or leave that space safely, because the most dangerous time for persons in those situations and when they're trying to leave. The aspect of employment as well plays an issue or a detriment in terms of whenever they're looking at it, because we've seen a lot of times when women lose their job and having to choose between their safety and their source of employment. And
but
so
why
we have
would
to
they lose their job?
Because often when they're in the shelter, for example, they can't go to work.
They're hiding.
They're hiding, so they can't go to work.
Yeah.
Sometimes because of shame, also they might not alert their employer. Which, in terms of the work that the social workers do, they do have those type of discussions, like what Ms. Thea said. At the end of the day, is their self-determination in what they want to do in the spaces that they are. And sometimes we do, the social workers alert the employer. Sometimes they're okay with a week. They might not be okay with 2 weeks. They might not be okay with 3 weeks. And so that's where we have to also look at engaging employers as well, because then you're removing that economic, for those who are economical, have that finance component, they're removing and adding another stress to that person.
Oh my God.
So we do have that space where they can also access the legal court in terms of protection orders. And I know that a lot of people don't really have a lot of faith, in that, in the court system and a paper, yes. But at the end of the day, I mean, there are those spaces that are available for them, where the person can then be detained. So those are some of the spaces. They're provided with the food. Once they're in the shelters, they don't have to worry about anything. In terms of their children and their education, the social worker also liaises with the schools to ensure that the kids continue as much as possible with the normal routine in terms of education and things like that. So like what we said, we do have some resources. And I think the support that they require emotionally and psychologically is where we also have to kind of strengthen it a bit as well. We do have the counseling center that is under the ministry as well, for people to engage and be able to go through, work it out, and look at what are the options that they have, because often people don't know, because they're so traumatized or emotionally spent on what they have been living through. They're really unable to recognize the resources that they do have. And it's important to just ask, and so whenever anybody comes to you, it's not about judging or, well, why you don't leave, or you have to. It's rather, how can I be there to support you?
Are there triggers that you can look out for to know that it is really escalating to a life-threatening situation?
Well, I think the moment you are disrespected, the moment you are first hit, you should know that it will only escalate from there on. It is important to note that during the pandemic, for instance, that was a stressor. You had a lot of people with sometimes not a lot of space at home, all together in the same home within the same limited space. There's a lot of people. That's a stressor. Obviously, the pandemic had a lot of stress when it came to people's economy. It was very reduced, and so the lack of finances is a huge stressor as well. You have the children in there. The uncertainty can also be stressful. If you add the fact that of liquor and drugs, it's a recipe for total disaster. And so maybe we can learn and say that those are stressors. When you don't have a job, unemployment, a lot of men feel like they're supposed to be the person, the provider that brings in the money, and they feel very lost and inefficient when they're not able to do that. And so invariably that's taken out on the women and the children at home. And so I'd like to say also that for women, when we're speaking about trying to leave, many women, at least between 40 and 50% of women are engaged in informal labor. And that increased in the pandemic because a lot of the times when you had a decision, okay, so who is going to stay at home with the children because there's no school, automatically it was assumed that the women were going to leave their jobs and the man would continue working, even though sometimes he's earning less, but because he's the man, he needs to go, the woman has to stay home and look after the home and the children. But that, like I said, brought another stress. So through the pandemic, we can see that for women, there's a lot of barriers for them leaving. There's a lot of barriers for women entering the workforce as it is. When they leave the formal workforce, it is very hard for them to go back in to the workforce. It is very hard because if they're in the informal sector, you know, they don't have a lot of opportunities for the business to grow, especially in these hard economic times. So they're very limited at the scale of what they can do, and obviously finance is a barrier to leaving the current situation that you're in, even though that situation is not the best. And so what I would want to say also is that even if you are not going to press charges against your attacker, it is important for you to report. Because if you report the abuse, if you report the violence, there is a record. You may choose later, you may choose a month later to go back and say, okay, now I'm ready to press charges. The report is there. The report can be used to say, this person has a history of violence. And so it will help you when it comes to gaining custody of your children and other things, perhaps in order to get maybe a restraining order, a protection order. So it is important, even though maybe at that time you are not ready to report, give your report, just in case you may need it later. So these are things that people don't know, and say, okay, well, if I don't want to press charges, so I'm not going to report. It's still important for you to say, this is what happened. Let's have a record of what happened. So you can see how many times it happens. It does not mean you necessarily have to follow through and press any charges. And because you're not pressing charges, does not mean it didn't happen.
You have it on record.
You have it on record.
And that's the first step.
That's the first step. Because then we can all agree that it did happen. A lot of people go in and do a report and then take it back. You can go in and say, I want to leave the report. I just don't want to press any charges. That doesn't mean we scratch out the report and throw it out. But let there be a record. It did happen. A lot of women, that's the first step, that it dawns on them that, yes, this is really happening to me. I heard our CEO, Ms. Tanya Santos, say yesterday that it happens in the best of families, and it does. It happens at all the socioeconomic levels, from the very best families to the poorer income families. It happens all across the country. All cultures. And she did say it was like COVID in that it did not respect any kind of boundaries.
And it doesn't discriminate.
It doesn't discriminate. So yes, we agree with her, and it is important to realize that women out there, you are not alone. It's happening to a lot of women. It's happening all across the country in every district. And so where the only way to free ourselves is to shine light on it and say it is happening. It's happening. It happened to me. It happened to lots of people. And so it's something that happens, and the only way to move through it is to accept that it's happening. And that's why it's important to report, to keep the reports there.
So what should the family and an immediate community do if they realize that someone is in an abusive situation? Maybe they're not ready to leave yet. You said it takes 5 to 8 times of actually attempting to leave before it's final. What should I do?
Well, I think it's just basically being there for them whenever they need that support. It is coming from a judgmental and expectation for them to do what we think they should do. While we may not agree with them remaining, every case is completely different as well. While there may be similarities in all the cases or specific things, at the end of the day, because it's different individuals that are facing, their response will be different. So definitely the support is there to ensure that when they need it, they have someone to go to, because that's one of the things that often happens in this situation, the aspect of isolation, and the fact that well, you see,
because I get tired of seeing you go back.
Right, exactly. And so we have to keep at it. I mean, I've seen, in terms of some of the experience and the cases where families really, they couldn't take it anymore, but we just have to keep at it, because that one time may be that time when we ensure that the person's life is saved, and ensure that you have the information. Know where the places are for the person to access services. Arm yourself with that information, because the person might not know, and so you might be the only contact. The person might not be able to go to these places, especially with COVID. They no longer have the spaces where they can go to take the children to school and kind of run out on the way back home to access the information, or to the clinics. We no longer have that as much. And so have that information. Know who are the organizations, which are the organizations that are working in the communities, so that you know where they can go to at all times. And ensuring that also you hold accountable the different duty bearers. Because we do know that sometimes who works in these systems? People. And in many times we have broken people, people that are also going through these same situations of violence. So the response often, and we have to understand, it might not be as the best one that we would want, and that's why the Commission developed the gender-based violence complaint mechanism, to ensure that persons in communities who see whenever services are denied and not given appropriately on the standard that we desire for them to be, to make that complaint that goes directly to the National Women's Commission, and then we work with the entities that are responsible for that particular area. And that again is the issue where what Ms. Thea said, not the in terms of reporting, families can also make the report.
That's
in terms
what I was
of that.
going to
Call
ask,
the police if you feel the persons are in danger. And so that the police can respond. The call doesn't have to come from the victim or
even if
survivor.
I'm not satisfied with the police's response, maybe I didn't see when they went, maybe they told them not to, bother, I should still call again. The second time, the next time, because I think we don't want to be the nosy neighbor or the interfering family member, but it may make a difference in saving somebody's life.
Indeed.
Well,
but sure.
In the complaint mechanism, for example, you don't have to be anybody involved in whatever is happening. I could be at the hospital waiting for my vaccine, and somebody comes in and they were turned away for whatever service. I could be at the police station on an entirely different matter, and maybe a police officer refused to take this woman's statement because she no press charges, so we just waste time. This is the third time you come in here, and you never, you always take back the police report, so we know I'm better. I could witness that and have nothing to do with that situation, but I can call in, I can reach out through Facebook, through the National Women's Commission webpage, and put down a complaint. I can say I was in the Belize City Queen Street station at such a time, and I witnessed a sergeant. I don't know his name, but he refused somebody service in relation to this, and this is what I heard. So the commission then steps in and says, police department, what's going on with this? And try to make sure that we have appropriate responses, and for all these situations. It could have happened at human development or at the women's department. Anywhere, report it. If I went in seeking some sort of service and I wasn't offered the service, or I was not
denied the service,
I denied the service, I can make a report, but it doesn't have to be me. It can be anybody that witnessed it.
That notices.
All right. So that is important, that you can do that through the commission. You can also, on our web page, you can also find information about where to access different kinds of services through different partners that we have. And so we would be able to refer you. While we are not, we cannot give the service, but we will refer you to the correct place to get the service that you need.
And last thing, the hotline. What is the hotline?
0800 A Way Out. And last year, through support from UNFPA, we're able to access a line directly from SMART. So we have the ones from BTL and from SMART that is free of cost. We also added a cell phone number for people to also text and WhatsApp. You know, because sometimes that's the only avenue. They can't call, but they can text on WhatsApp. So again, that, you know, people often say, well, that's not used, people don't use it. How do we know that they don't use it? You know, we need to make sure that we utilize whatever system services are available for us to even say it's not working. And if it's not working, we need to document it to ensure that we hold people accountable. Just like we want to hold perpetrators accountable by utilizing the law, Domestic Violence Act, apply for protection orders, ensuring we report, we also have to hold accountable the duty bearers to ensure that they do what they need to do.
All right. Extended conversation, but these are conversations we need to continue to push forward. Cynthia and of course Thea, thank you so very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having us.
And the public should know 0800 A Way Out. 0800 A Way Out. Thank you guys once again for joining us. We're about to take a break though. When we come back, we will be discussing the history of steel pan in Belize and how it connects us to our Afro-Caribbean identity. We'll do that when we come back. Stay with us.
This COVID update was brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor, and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
Whether you're at home, on the road, at work, or at school, if you see news happening or suspect that something might be up, call or text the Channel 5 News Belize tip line at 672-5555. You don't have to give us your name, just give us the tip. That's 672-5555. Call or text us so we can check it out.
Smart continues to expand its internet coverage countrywide to help you live a smarter life.
Our villagers are very happy. They are pleased to know that Smart went the extra mile to put a tower in our village so that our villagers can get live stream on their TVs and they can get their kids doing their online classes. I want to say to Smart, thank you for making it possible for us to get internet in Gardenia Village. We really do appreciate it.
Smart continues to take the internet and mobile services to communities across Belize. Now save even more when you bundle your Smart broadband with Smart mobile services. Smart, bringing people together.
Great Belize Productions Channel 5, proud winner of 5 Caribbean Media Awards for 2019 and 2020. Best Television News Item, Best Responsible Coverage of Children's Issues, Best Health Education Journalism, Best Television Commercial Spot, and the People's Choice Award, with special mention by the jury in the Best Television News Item category.
And we're back.
Just like that, we're back.
Into our second conversation for today.
Indeed, yeah. Our second conversation surrounds the history of steel pan in Belize and how it connects us to our Afro-Caribbean identity. To tell us all about it, we've got a musician in. He's Alexander Evans. He's actually on Zoom, but nonetheless, he's our brother. Alex, good morning.
Hi, good morning, good morning.
Yeah,
Good morning.
we are doing great, my brother. We're so great that you could join us this morning. And of course, we're interested to find out about the history of steel pan in Belize and what it truly means for us as Afro-Caribbean people. Let's start there.
I was going to jump back and say, one, you look very different when you're not behind a
I
steel
know,
pan.
right?
That's how we normally see you, right? Let's start with that.
Calmer, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but so let's jump on in there, my brother. And in terms of our Afro-Caribbean identity and the steel pan, how important of an instrument is it within the Caribbean, though? Tell us about that.
Okay, yeah, certainly. So this conversation that we're having, of course, is related to a presentation that I'll be giving at the Culture Symposium, which you all would have spoken about earlier this week.
Mm-hmm.
So initially, so it's based on what I actually did for my final thesis at the University of the West Indies in Trinidad as a requirement for graduation. And it came as a result of realizing that within the UWI Library, within the West Indiana collection, within this wealth of resources and this wealth of knowledge that pertains to the Caribbean, that pertains to the region, there's information on the history of steel pan in Trinidad, of course, the birthplace of the instrument.
Yeah.
In Antigua, in Guyana, in Barbados, in Jamaica, in St. Lucia. You could find resources, like written, credible resources on all of these things. But how Belize fits into that narrative was, missing from that story. And the truth is we've had steel pan in Belize since 1965. So it's one of those things where this instrument is almost synonymous with the sound of the Caribbean, and other CARICOM countries have well documented, history and data on how this instrument came to be in their country. And that was just missing for us. So I felt like, as the first Belizean to enter a field of study within that program at the University of the West Indies, it was kind of almost my responsibility to bridge that gap and to start doing some of the work to fill in where that's missing.
Yeah.
Now, from the perspective of the Culture Symposium, I felt like it was also necessary to as you mentioned, go back and talk about the history of the instrument before it got to Belize, as well as the history of the instrument within Belize.
Yeah.
And the thing about it that I find really, really almost necessary to highlight is the fact that the steel pan was invented in Trinidad in the late 1930s.
Wow.
And it was invented as a direct response to post-colonial oppression. Not to get, because, I don't want to spoil everything.
I was going to say, this is your teaser segment for your Culture Symposium.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you a question that I know I have heard before in terms of a comment. Do you think that the steel pan is another example of adopted culture here in Belize.
Wow, that's a deep one.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. That's a very good question, and I appreciate the question. Because the honest answer, in my opinion, is that Belize is so diverse, so multifaceted. We have so many different identities by virtue of the plethora of cultures that we have within Belize.
Yeah.
Because of the historical context of being a part of Latin America and also the historical context of being part of the Caribbean. There's so many lines that intersect where that kind of give us context for who we are. And to be completely honest, the majority of these are underexplored and underappreciated.
Yeah.
So I look at it as the core of who we are, and the core of what is important for us to talk about in the narrative of culture is the cultures that are specific to Belize, and the cultures that make us who we are primarily. Maya, Creole, Garifuna, Mestizo, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then outside of that primary, you know, almost that if you think of it like a target, like a you know, like an archery board or something like that. That is the bullseye. That is the core.
Yeah.
And then outside you have these concentric rings
Yeah.
that also help to provide further context to who we are. And one of those, you know, concentric rings that lies outside of that core is our Caribbean identity.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, it's certainly not as integral or as important for us to talk about as, you know, all of the things that we could discuss about our Maya heritage or about the Belizean Creole heritage or about the Garifuna culture. It's not as integral to the conversation as those things, but it certainly is an important part of the conversation because it offers context to who we are as a people. And if you really look at it from just a historical perspective, the steel pan as an instrument hasn't even been in existence for 90 years.
Yeah.
But it's been in Belize for almost 60 years. So almost 2/3 of the time that this instrument has been in existence, it has existed in Belize. And I think that that's pretty significant.
That's true. That's true. And it is also, I like what you said, using kind of the dartboard as the example, the bullseye, which kind of comes down to our core ethnicities, and it depends on how you define yourself too. But then you also have all these other layers,
rings,
with Caribbean, with Central American, and even just the mixture of cultures we see in Belize. But I think it's fascinating, though, how we gravitate towards it. So whether, you know, it's coming from another Caribbean country is not so much the point for me as much as how much we just, I mean, you hear that steel pan and it's just something that automatically connects inside of us. And it really does tie us back to how we are a part of the Caribbean, even though so separated by the Caribbean Sea. What does that, what do you think that represents for you, Alex?
Yeah, absolutely. When you hear that steel pan, it just moves something inside of you. And I think that, you know, without getting too much into the meat of my presentation, because I still want to attend the symposium and stuff. But I think that what it comes down to, and this is really what I think is the most important thing to take from the story of the steel pan and the story of the history of the steel pan, is that within the African diaspora, wherever former enslaved people ended up, magic happened.
Yeah, you're right.
And as I was mentioning before, the steel pan being invented was a response to the colonial oppressors saying, all right, on a can't play drums, on a can't beat this, on a can't, you know, have, you know, percussion and stuff going on. Yeah. And in adapting to that oppression, the steel pan was created. Also, you know, other things like carnival and juve, and even, you know, the music as well that we gravitate towards, the calypso and the soca, or in the case of Jamaica, the reggae and the dancehall, or in the case of the US, the hip hop and the R&B. All of these were created by former enslaved people in these new societies where they were transplanted. So for me, the most important thing to look at, so to answer your question, first of all, I think that that's why we gravitate towards it so much, because we can relate to so much of the history behind it, you know, and like, you know, you, again, with the concentric circles and the rings, you know, it might not be our history directly, but it is the history of people like us.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that the most important thing to learn from these types of stories is that, you know, the steel pan as we know it today doesn't just exist by chance. And even these other genres of music that I spoke about don't exist by chance. Reggae isn't reggae today because, oh, somebody just wake up yesterday and decide to make reggae music. Soca isn't soca because somebody just wake up and decide to make soca music. It's because over the past century or more, there have been innovators and there have been pioneers and there has been investment, there has been significant investment in developing these art forms.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where we as Belizeans really, really need to look at.
Alex, you know,
what do we have in Belize that we haven't invested in?
Indeed. But I would like, because, you know, while you're well-rounded with the steel pan, we're actually watching a video of you doing it as we speak. You're playing there. We tend to reckon steel pan mostly around September time. Is it the same way in the Caribbean, or is it all year round?
So there is a certain correlation between steel pan and carnival in Trinidad. So for example, the biggest, you know, steel pan festival in the world, which is Panorama, happens the Friday, or no, sorry, the Saturday before actual carnival. You know, it happens the weekend before carnival, and it's even something where that is kind of like the time of year where most of the steel pan musicians make all of their money and stuff from playing in Panorama and stuff like that. So it is seasonal to a certain degree, but there have been attempts by Pan Trinbago and by other, you know, organizations and stuff that govern, you know, pan and music and stuff like that, to encourage pan playing year round and to encourage that high level of competition and stuff like that. So there have been, you know, other, you know, things going on like music festival and like Pan in the 21st Century, Pan is Beautiful, other things like that to kind of get us to kind of get their people to not just see it as a once a year kind of thing.
And even if it is seasonal there, their season is just longer.
Yeah.
They have it so. And
Boxing Day to Ash Wednesday.
Yeah.
But let me bring it back to, you said something so beautiful. You said, you know, and I almost had an image of like a pollination of sorts, you know, with the roots coming from Africa, just looking at how it's kind of deposited in fertile ground where it only grows and expands. So when you look at and I don't want you to give everything away from your presentation because, as we said, it's a teaser.
You did that already,
When you look at where where we are today, and even things like Panyard and the professionalism and the growth and it being introduced within the school system, what do you envision is kind of the trajectory for us with steel pan music in Belize?
You know, truthfully, it's difficult to say.
Yeah.
Because I think that Belize, and particularly the arts in Belize, has been significantly impacted by the pandemic, and not just inherently by the pandemic, but by the lack of creative and cultural infrastructure that already existed before the pandemic. So other countries, you know, the world has been affected by the pandemic. Artists have, you know, and musicians and performers have been severely affected by the pandemic because, you know, we can't meet, we can't congregate, we can't use physical spaces to perform. But a lot of other countries, because they were a little bit more developed and because they understood the importance of art and they understood the importance of culture, they were able to kind of adapt in certain ways that we might not have been able to.
Yeah.
So right now it's a little bit difficult to say what the trajectory is going to be like, post-COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But leading up to that, I could definitely say that there was more of a push to get more young people playing pan.
Mm-hmm.
There was more of a push to get more pans in the schools.
Mm-hmm.
We saw SJCJC started the first ever tertiary level program for music in Belize, and one of the instruments that they use is pan.
Yeah.
We saw the University of Belize start laying the groundwork to start an associate degree program in music as well, and one of the first sets of instruments that they got was pan.
Yeah.
And I think one of the beautiful things is that aside from the cultural value and aside from the anecdotal value in teaching us the importance of culture, just as a musical instrument, the steel pan is such a brilliant invention. And I always tell people it's a musical instrument that is easy to learn but difficult to master.
All right.
That's a tough one though, because we tried it here. And,
I was horrible at it. I have always wanted to be in a steel pan band, and I think that was my realization that it probably wasn't in my cards.
I still think that, Marlene, I still think though that unlike other instruments, the steel pan is a very versatile one, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So so to know that we've got it in country, that's definitely a blessing. So you've got your presentation to be made. When is that going to happen, and how can we be a part of it?
Okay. So it's going to end on the 2nd of September in session. I cannot remember the exact time, but it's happening on September the 2nd in the morning session at the Belize Culture Symposium. So you could go to the Heritage Education Network social media pages and get all the information you need. You could pre-register. You could click a link that allows you to express your interest in, and to first of all to see the full list of presentations and presenters, and express interest in the ones that you're interested in attending.
All right. Well, we are grateful that you gave us just a little teaser. There we go. It's September 2nd. The history of steel pan in Belize and how it connects us to our Afro-Caribbean identity. Alex, we appreciate you joining us, and definitely looking forward to the presentation at the Culture Symposium.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
All right. Thank you so very much.
Take care.
All right.
I get this, John, right?
Uh-huh.
Do not go anywhere.
I love it. I love it. Do not go anywhere, because when we come back, we'll be giving you a sneak peek of how to prepare some delicious donut. We'll be back shortly and telling you exactly how to prepare some donuts. Stay with us. We'll be back.
Hello, friends. This is Dr. Bob Roberts with another 60-second sermon from God's Word. The Bible says, "For if when we were enemies, we were reconciled to God by the death of His Son, much more being reconciled, we shall be saved by His life." During the Revolutionary War, there lived in Ephrata, Pennsylvania, a Baptist preacher by the name of Peter Miller, who enjoyed friendship with General Washington. There also lived a wicked man by the name of Michael Whitman, who did all in his power to abuse this pastor. One day this wicked man was accused of treason and sentenced to death. Peter Miller walked 70 miles to see General Washington and plead for his life. Washington said, "No, Peter, I cannot grant you the life of your friend." "My friend," replied Peter Miller, "this man is my bitterest enemy." "What?" cried Washington. "You have walked 70 miles to save the life of an enemy? That puts the matter in a different light. I will grant the pardon." The Bible says that it was not when we were God's friends, but His enemies, that Jesus Christ came all the way from heaven to die on the cross, that we could be forgiven and pardoned for our sins. Someone has said that if God did that much for us when we were His enemies, think what He will do for us now that we are His friends. The Bible says Abraham believed God, and God counted him as righteous because of his faith. He was even called the friend of God. This is God's promise to you, and what a promise it really is. Today's 60-second sermon has been presented by Christian Foundations of Faith in cooperation with the Baptist churches in your area.
Imagine going through your entire day without the burden and risk of carrying cash on you. Belize's shift to digital wallets has begun with eCash. We can now skip the cash when collecting money or paying for our essentials, all while using a fast, easy, and secure platform. Simply add funds to your wallet via bank transfer or at an agent, and you're good to go. You will be able to make quick, easy payments simply by scanning QR codes. And best of all, it all happens just like that. Payments are as easy as clicking a link online or scanning a QR code. Download the eCash app from the Google Play and Apple App Store today and take your first step into a cashless lifestyle. The future is here with eCash. For more information, visit www.e-cash.com or contact us via WhatsApp at 613-0257 to find out more.
The TV you love is always with you, from live TV, sports, and on-demand titles. Choose your plan today. Plans start as low as $15 per month. My TV, entertainment, anytime, anywhere.
Great Belize Productions, Channel 5, proud winner of 5 Caribbean Media Awards for 2019 and 2020. Best Television News Item, Best Responsible Coverage of Children's Issues, Best Health Education Journalism, Best Television Commercial Spot, and the People's Choice Award, with special mention by the jury in the Best Television News Item category.
Whether you're at home, on the road, at work, or at school, if you see news happening or suspect that something might be up, call or text the Channel 5 News Belize tip line at 672-5555. You don't have to give us your name, just give us the tip. That's 672-5555. Call or text us so we can check it out.
And we'll be back in a few, so stay tuned. Thanks, Jen. Hey there, we know you have to head out to work shortly, but don't forget that you can stay tuned by watching us on our Facebook live stream. Find us at Open Your Eyes BC, and you can continue watching there. You can also download Facebook Watch on your streaming device, and you can watch at your own convenience.
And for all the behind-the-scenes fun, follow us on Instagram at OYE Belize. So,
find us
and follow us
today.
Welcome back to Open Your Eyes. And we're now moving into our third and final segment for the morning. Like we mentioned, well, you had the best thing for the day so far. Donut leave. Donut.
Do not prolong this. We need to get to the donuts.
That box Donuts give us a sneak peek into how they get it done and how to prepare it. In with us, we've got Ashley Rayburn. She's actually the owner of Dot Box Donuts. Morning.
Morning.
And how are you?
I'm okay. I'm good.
Sure, positive. Good.
Yes.
All right. So Ashley, you've got everything here nicely done, lovely packages, and everything smells so good. Tell us about your business. How did you get started?
Okay. Well, I've always been doing donuts like with my family, especially my mom. She was the one who actually like started us in doing it. The mini donuts, and I love Pinterest. Like I literally live on Pinterest 24/7. And one day I just got up and I'm like, you know what? I saw it trending on my page. I was like, let me just add a twist to our Belizean, style donut. So that's basically how it really got started. And also it was to fundraise for my initial business, Creole Mix. But then it started to take off and there was like no turning back.
So you've been a business person for a while?
Yeah, well, it was by accident because I actually was doing medicine, and when I went to UB, they kind of like pushed that, like brought out that business side of me, especially my mentor at Beltrade. He, Mr. Jorge Gento, he was like, you know what, you need to do this project as an actual business, the Creole Mix. So then, you know, it eventually led to another business, and I just became addicted in, you know, business to business. Basically.
And so, I mean, listen, let's be honest here. There's Pinterest and then there's PinFail, right? There's a whole website dedicated to that, where people try to do that lovely stuff on Pinterest and it's a bust. But clearly, you have a talent. And you're extremely creative in what you've created so far.
Oh my God.
Tell me about, you know, offering it to the public. Because when you make it for your family, that's one thing. They love everything you do, right?
Yeah.
But then you put it out to the public. What was that like?
I mean, I started out with the first, like I literally got up the Friday. And I didn't forget. I can't forget this. I got up the Friday and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make donuts, and these will be the 4 flavors: sugar, cinnamon, the happy bacon. There's a happy cow cheese with bacon. Rather than because I heard about maple bacon, so I would like look at what other people are doing and turn it into like a Belizean style. So I was like happy cow cheese and bacon, and that went so well. And then I did chocolate twist, which this one is a chocolate twist. And I did coconut cream toast. So that was the first 4 flavors. I had the name and everything. And I was like, Saturday, I'm going to sell it. And it was just that. And then people, like, they recommended, like, different flavors. Let's do some caramel. I started to do, like, the cold cake, which this one is a cold cake.
Yeah, you have
I did cherry cheesecake, Oreo cheesecake. I had, like, I probably have done, like, probably 50 flavors. Like, I have a flavor addiction. Like, I have to calm myself down sometimes.
Okay, so definitely happy cow cheese and bacon. That's an interesting one. Tell us about some of the other really out of the box ones.
Okay, well, our top seller is actually the cherry cheesecake, and we have glazed bites. Well, I didn't bring that one today, but like people have been really loving that one, and the little sugar cinnamon one that you dip in a sauce. So that comes in a sauce. Yeah.
This girl.
And then I started to do like the large birthday donut. So that's a 9x9 which we'll decorate today. A 9x9.
Do you think I'm standing over here by chance?
Like, so we're gonna decorate today.
There's a donut the size of my head.
Yes, it's big.
I'm not going far.
Yes, Theorita, for real?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And people have also fell in love with our custard donut.
Okay.
Because,
I hear great things about that one.
We first started doing it like by the box, and I was like, I'm not pleased with that. I know it's like Belizean the box custard, but I'm like, you know what? Let me do it from scratch.
Yeah.
So I practiced and I finally perfected the perfect custard recipe, and I'm so happy with that.
Oh
yes.
my God.
Which one is the custard?
I didn't bring it today.
Oh my goodness. So that's 2.
I just brought lemon.
2 of the top sellers, 2 of the best ones that bring for it today.
Then we have like pina colada.
So tell me what you got here. So this is the strawberry cheesecake, I guess?
The cherry cheesecake.
Cherry cheesecake.
Yeah, we had strawberry cheesecake because I had a cheesecake special.
Okay.
But then this one was the top flavor. We also have chocolate cheesecake, Oreo cheesecake, strawberry, banana cheesecake, and cherry cheesecake. But this was the top seller.
Cherry cheesecake.
Yes.
Followed by?
This is the lemon filled cold cake. We have pina colada, nutty caramel, yin and yang, frosted Oreo, chocolate twist, and the same on that side.
And the chocolate twist just has multiple chocolate.
So it's Hershey's chocolate, because that's my favorite, brand of chocolate.
Oh God.
And so we do like a buttercream frost with like peanuts on the side. And we have these coffee cups here because we're planning to do like a special, like it's going to be called Twisted Tuesday. Our first one we'll do a pretzel donut with iced coffee.
Okay.
On Tuesdays.
And so you offer donuts every day, or it's only on special occasions?
It's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
So what happened to Wednesday?
I decided to take off Wednesday.
Oh,
Have a break. My day off.
So that she can come on days like this here.
Today is my day off, so it worked out quite nicely, the chocolate cheesecake.
right. So they're all lovely, and of course we want to get to decorating, but a lot of people have been screaming about what you've got.
I always say the orange fence. Look out for the orange fence and the mango tree.
Yeah.
I operate from my grandmother's kitchen, even though sometimes it's crazy because she's like, oh, be careful, you're gonna break my bowl. But her kitchen is like, if your granny kitchen now like mine, you should know, like she have everything. Everything. This is all her stuff.
Yeah.
So her kitchen is perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's pickup only.
We have delivery. We use those courier service, so we kind of like.
Okay.
So you can get it delivered.
Yes, you can.
Okay, great.
So if you'd like a box, I know we gotta decorate, but if you'd like a box, how do we? What's the cost? And
okay, well, it varies depending on the flavor. We have like regular, like your lemon, your regular chocolate. Because people sometimes they don't really like the extra, they're just plain, right?
Yeah.
So and then we go up to the gourmet box. We go up to the gourmet box, and then they hold a minimum of 4 donuts. And we have what I noticed, like with the whole pandemic thing, it kind of like forced us, which is a good thing, to use social media. So I started doing a lot of research about how to get the menu out there. So we started using WhatsApp, the business WhatsApp, and then we have our catalog there. So you literally just shop on there, and it gives you the total and everything. It's so nice,
Sweet.
Okay. And so we get to learn a bit about decorate. I clearly can't make donut like you, but I could learn to decorate, right?
I want to look on. Go, yeah.
We got little ones for you, John. We could start with the little one then.
Okay, sure. Let's put this
We
here.
could do both at the same time. I'll do the big one.
Okay. I could do the little one.
More space and less
Okay, so,
all right. So
we have here our topping. First of all, when you're making a donut, you have to choose the type of dough that you're going to use. You can just use a regular flour, yeast, type of dough, or you can use an enriched type of dough.
Okay.
So it's all up to you. You can even do like chocolate flavored dough, strawberry flavored, whatever. So when you choose your dough and you fried it and everything with your oil of choice, now you have your toppings. So there's the regular ring donut and the filled ones. I call these the little donut bun.
Okay.
So these one will be filled with the lemon, the custard, or your cheesecake flavors.
Okay.
And these one will be like the coconut. This is the coconut and the chocolate flavors. Yeah, they're glazed. So you have to mix your glaze because it kind of gets.
Well, yeah, I know. So you were telling us tip number 1 is that it has to be.
Well, this one is the filling.
This one filling.
So you have to.
I don't have to mix this.
Here, John, use your
Man, rough me right
This is for the glaze. This one is for the frosted Oreo, like that one right here.
Like this one. Okay, so cool.
Yes.
And this is
The
chocolate.
Life is like a box of chocolate.
So any strange requests?
In terms of like
what people would want. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Let's hear this.
I mean, other than making this huge donut as a cake, right?
I have a customer. He is so he's really nice. Like you meet a lot of good people, and he's actually helping me to push the business, and he's helping me with my marketing and everything. But he was first the one that would recommend I want a Smirnoff donut.
What?
I want a German cake donut. You know what? Give me some St. Patrick's donut.
What?
And he just literally asked. He called me the donut guru. So yeah.
Okay.
It's really cool.
So we just spread it.
Okay, yeah. So you can take this and just spread it over.
Just spread it. All right. So I'm gonna do a chocolate caramel
All right.
donut.
Okay.
So how do I? Okay. You know what?
This one is kind of cool.
It's
So
kind of
maybe
cool.
you can do the coconut one.
Okay. Let's do that.
And then with the coconut, I really try to use more of the natural flavor rather than just essence. I guess that's the thing that people love about my flavors is that I really focus on using real natural flavors.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So you grate on this coconut?
Well, that would have been kind of hard.
All right. So I think this one is ready.
Oh, this one you need more.
I need more.
Can I get more on the side?
Oh, we could use some of that on there, and then
I'm going to do
stretch
a
it.
center ring of caramel.
Oh my gosh.
You like fire Chan?
Okay,
Yeah,
and
this
then
want you to know, right?
what I like about this is that you're creating. Maybe that could be an actual thing. Someone create their own donut, and then what I like to do with my customers, I have them name it. So maybe you can name your.
We'll figure out the name after.
All right. So
Oh
I
my
guess I
God.
could put it here and then next
The-
to
the-
it.
the-
I
Get
could-
to work, John. I'm almost finished.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
to set it
So let's put it more. So I could yes. Alright, so this is going to be on one of these, right?
Favorite flavors,
On the
caramel.
ring one, you just dip it. Like you could dip that one.
So I just pick this up and
and
dip it?
dip it in there, yeah.
Alright, so I want to munch this one. It feels fluffy too.
Oh my god, you've done this.
Shani still laugh off from me go.
You guys look like you're well experienced in the kitchen. Oh my gosh, except you.
Man, you see what your makeup and
I didn't say it. And then you put the coconut. And the thing is, when you're toasting, I like to toast it because it's like crunchy when you bite it. So like.
So I get it and I sprinkle it?
Yeah, you can sprinkle it.
Let me sprinkle it.
So these are our mini donut that we offer. Those ones there on the boxes are the regular ones that we have.
So there's like a big size, a small size,
or a regular,
and then
or
this
mini.
ginormous one.
Yeah, people like that for birthdays because they're like, I'm tired of eating cake. Let's get a donut.
Okay, so we got somewhere to start.
I should have hired you.
You should, man.
This look really good. For real.
Okay, mine needs some pizzazz on it. All right.
I just want you to know that when you put it down, you have to do it with your fingers like that.
Well,
oh my gosh.
Mine is going to be a Snicker donut. It has
Oh.
chocolate and caramel.
Snicker donut.
Chocolate and caramel, that's perfect with you. That's perfect.
Peanuts.
Yes.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
I know, right?
Here we go. Do we stuff it too?
Well, maybe not that one.
All right, and then the stuffed ones, how do you do that?
Yeah,
so you
tell
just
us,
like a
show us.
serrated knife.
Mhm.
Oh, the knife?
Yeah, and just like open it.
The whole thing?
Like half.
Okay.
It's really soft, so it kind of sticks. Oh my gosh.
Look like you're butter bread or something.
Not true.
Am I doing it wrong? Everybody's nervous of me with a knife.
And then you put the lemon fill.
Okay.
Yeah.
You stick it back.
How much do you
Yeah.
put?
I mean, like.
Your choice.
Yeah, you're making this one.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we get this.
That's the fun part.
And we put the powdered sugar on top.
Oh, wait.
That's the fun part.
Well, well.
There we go.
Delicioso. I have a customer that loves like extra sugar on it.
Really?
Like, load it up.
All right.
So that's how it's done. That's how it's done.
Yeah. I gave you guys the easy one today.
I know, clearly.
Yeah, if you tried to use the piping bag, it would be like, oh my god. So you want to try that one? Okay, so there's a dulce de leche that I don't have any more caramel, but all right, so we'll use this one and we just kind of like spread it on, all right? You spread it on like this. I'll do one and then I'll, rather than, because I used to do it like this and I'm like, you know what, that's not dot box ready.
Yeah.
I have to like pretty this up. So what you do, you take the bag and you do like a little circle, like a swirl around like that. And then you take this little skewer and you just do it like that.
Oh god, that box ready.
So then it's like pretty. It's like gourmet, you see? Like that.
That is pretty.
Rather than just pasting it on, you know? Oh my gosh, this is not a Snicker anymore.
I know.
Yeah.
I got a little bit too excited. This is really hard to use. You weren't lying. Okay.
All right.
There you go. This is why you go to actually
box to get yours, yeah.
and get her donuts.
right.
So people can find you online.
Yes.
What's your contact number for the business?
Okay, it's 638-8824. And you can find us on Instagram, WhatsApp us, Facebook. We're working. I think I have a TikTok, but I'm working on that.
One step at a time.
I know.
Right? Yeah. Well, we are so happy that you came in to tell us all about your little business. And we do want to let you know at home that we'll be giving away some donuts in just a few. Yes. John, you're not eligible to participate.
Oh my goodness.
All right, good. But anything else you'd like to say before we close?
So no orders today. You can't get no donut today.
I might do a few, just a few, because I have made extra. At home, I have it at home.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So Dotbox Donuts, where you can get your gourmet donuts, and it's pickup and delivery here in Belize City. And find them and pick your flavor.
All right. Well, Ashley, thank you so very much for joining us this morning. This was great. Again, I think I think Marlene win me this time.
No, I think you win.
Really
yours looks
you think so?
classic. Mine looks like I shouldn't have put the white stuff on it.
Anyways, we're going to take that break. When we come back, we'll be wrapping things up. But we also have Dot Box giveaway. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you are ailing due to a chronic disease and are left permanently invalid before retirement age, you may want to check if you qualify to receive invalidity benefit. The invalidity benefit exists for persons who are unable to continue working due to permanent illness. To qualify, you must be under 60 years old, must be sick for 26 consecutive weeks and certified to be medically unable to perform any type of work, must have at least 5 years of paid SSB contributions and at least 5 paid within the 3 months leading up to your illness. If you do not qualify for the invalidity pension, you may be eligible for the invalidity grant. Want to know more about invalidity benefit? Visit our website or contact any of our offices to have someone assist you. Also, be sure to visit our Facebook page and give us a like to stay informed. Social Security Board. Safeguarding you, your family, your future.
Hey son, how was your first day at sixth form?
Really cool. It was great to see my friends and I really love my teachers.
I'm so happy to hear that. I'm sorry I wasn't there for your first day, but I'll be back from Corozal next week.
It's okay, Dad. I can't wait to see you. Oh, and please remember, I still have some books I need to purchase.
Ah, yes. Let me e-cash you that right now. Money has been sent. I add a little extra cash just for you.
Whoa, Dad. Thanks. Got it.
You're welcome, sir.
Download the eCash app today and take your first step into a cashless lifestyle. For more information, visit www.e-cash.com or contact us via WhatsApp at 613-0257. eCash, the future is here.
Bundle the fastest, most reliable, unlimited broadband in Belize with your prepaid or postpaid mobile plan or Netflix. You can bundle your broadband with your prepaid and enjoy 50% off all national calls, plus get SMS and data. Paid plans? Then bundle with any speed and pay only $25 extra monthly to enjoy unlimited smart-to-smart calls, plus 500 minutes, plus 6,300 megabytes of data. Stream unlimited HD movies and TV shows with our broadband, plus the Netflix add-on for only $30 monthly, and enjoy streaming on your laptop, TV, phone, or tablet. Visit a smart showroom near you to sign up or upgrade to the bundle that's right for you. Smart, bringing people together.
And we're back.
Just like that, we have come to the end of our show for today, but we've got some giveaways from Dot Box. We've got it right here, right now, ready. But you need to log on to your Facebook, to our Facebook page, Open Your Eyes BZ. You log on there. There it is, right there on your screen. And as long as you're on there, you answer the question. And the question is?
So, Ashley said when she first started, she had four flavors of donuts.
She started with 4 flavors. Yes, she started with 4 flavors.
And she listed those out for us. So if you want to win today's box of donuts, you have to get on Facebook, go to Open Your Eyes BZ, comment in the live stream of today's show. You have to give all these particulars.
Yes,
not a private message, not a WhatsApp, nothing else. Just go ahead and comment right in or live stream on the Open Your Eyes page the first 4 flavors that Ashley started with for her dot box donuts.
I hope you remember. I hope you remember, because trust me, these donuts, they're so delicious, and you'll be winning a box of them. All right? Easy peasy, just like that. But while we do that, we want to say a big thank you to everybody who joined us this morning. We started with a very touchy conversation in terms of how do you detect domestic violence and what you could do to make that report. It, of course, must be that you trust the authorities. And the Women's Commission, they were in with us. We had 2 reps, Miss Cynthia and, of course, Thea, and they gave us some some enlightening information of how you could detect and how you could make a report. So thank you so very much for joining us with that.
And do remember that if you find yourself in a situation where you need some help, you can always contact the different agencies. There is a toll-free hotline. It's 0800 Way Out, and you can also always call the police department or the tips line, or you can call the women's department and the Women's Commission to get some help as to how to get out of the situation that you're in. We do, of course, reiterate their point of view where community members, family members, be patient. If you have a loved one who is in an abusive situation, it does take some time for them to leave. And, you know, the most important thing is that you are there as their support system.
Indeed. We must be our brother's keeper. We must be able to take care of each other like we take care of ourselves. As long as we could do that, we will be living in a beautiful country. We also want to say a big thing. We got the winner already. We'll tell you who the winner is right now. But we also want to say a big thank you to Alexander. He joined us this morning and he shared with us about the steel pan and how it fits directly into us being descendants of Afro-Caribbean people. So that was a great conversation. He's got his presentation coming up, I think, on the 1st or 2nd September. Yes, so he'll be making his presentation, and there are ways you could join that as well.
Of course. You just look up for the Culture Symposium online, and you'll be able to see the lineup and how you can register to see the different presentations. Big thank you to Ashley Rayburn as well, the owner of Dot Box Donuts. And, you know, she talked to us a bit about her story. We do have a winner. We'll tell you who very shortly. But she also showed us how difficult it actually is to make them look so beautiful.
I know, and like she said, that
I think today's lesson was it's very hard.
It was. And she actually showed us a tip on how you could actually be as decorative as possible to make them look dot box ready. All right, so that's so cool. But we also have a brother in here with us. He has his stall at the bus terminal. Can we find dot box there? We could find dot box there? Not yet?
You just put them on the spot,
I put them on the spot,
you?
but that's how you go sometimes. We could find it there? Yes! Right there at the bus terminal, you could actually, this guy is always there. Great food as well. So Ashley, thank you so very much for joining us and telling us all about Dot Box. I've been getting messages saying, John, please bring us on donut. So we're going to see how it works out. But the winner is none other than
Frankie
Stein.
Frankie
Stein. Congratulations to you, my brother. You are the winner of a box of donuts, courtesy Dot Box, as he is, of course, one of our. He's always looking on. Always.
We got. So they always stay ready. Once we say that giveaway alert, I'm pretty sure they're there. But we thank you, of course, for tuning in today. And remember, for Frankie, you can pick up your box here at Channel 5. Of course, you have to bring an ID, but we'll get in touch with you to work out those details.
That's right. We need to go. Without you, this is not possible. Thank you for opening your eyes and starting your morning right with us. If you've got any questions, any concerns, drop us a line at oye@channel5belize.com.
You can also find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ and on Instagram OYE Belize.
You can join us again tomorrow morning when you open your eyes.
To start your morning right.
As per usual, or until then, I'll say it like how you say it. Until then, keep your eyes, your minds,
and your hearts open. We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Woohoo! Woo!
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.